Hey there, I'm going to... what am I going to do? Hey there, in this video, I'm going to take a book that I got from Mile High Comics, and it is a Marvel comic at the tail end of the Bronze Age. And as I was grading it, I noticed that it has the potential for a press, and wanted to run a Bronze Age comic through my pressing technique and see how it turns out. So this is the entire process, start to finish. I hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned. All right, so the first thing I want to do is show you the book before the press. And again, this was a book I purchased from Mile High Comics, where I talk about a condition mystery box sort of thing. And I noticed that a lot of the books were not coming back as high as 9.4. And one of the books in particular is Thor 340 from 1983. And there's not a whole lot significant about this book. It's not a super key or anything like that. It is a fantastic Beta Ray Bill and Thor cover by Walt Simonson, part of the Simonson Thor run that I've talked about, trying to go back and collect one by one. And I wanted to take a look at this book in particular and some of the defects that I noticed while screening it, grading it, and I feel that there's definitely an opportunity to improve the book, but also still, as I'm learning the process, I wanted to see if I could maybe use more of the analytical tools and thought process to pressing and kind of combined this sort of artistic, scientific, and analytic approach to pressing books. And I'm starting to think about how I want to approach pressing and what do I want to do, and hopefully turn some profit into my investing, and also adding some higher end books and cleaning those up as part of my personal collection. So that's the explanation. That's the context of what I'm trying to do here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to show you the book, show you some of the defects that I found, let you know what grade I assigned the book, and then I'm going to document the process in terms of capturing defects, storing that information in a spreadsheet, and then the particulars around pressing. And then we'll see how the book turns out completely end to end and what grade I'm going to assign the book after the press. So I want to think about, as I'm pressing books, am I really increasing the grades? Am I hurting them over time? Are they automatically 9/8 and so on? And I want to track all of that information to really grade and rate myself as a comic book presser. And so this is the first video that I'm going to record on this journey. And we'll start with 340 and take a look at this book. All right, so here is the book. Like I said, this is Thor 340. We'll see here on the edge, it is from 1983. And I'll show you what I found that made me feel like this was a good candidate for pressing. There is a tiny bit of color rub / ink right there, but I don't believe that is going to cause any particular issues or keep it from getting a 9.8. It's very subtle, but it is there. Again, nothing that I could get out with the press. A tiny bit of a tear right there too by the staple. So I'm pointing those out because you're going to see those after the press right there. A very, very minor and delicate spine curl right there. So that should come out with the press. But again, even with those things, it's a 9.6 or a 9.8, again, depending on the mood that the graders are in. What I like about this book is the corner right there, really sharp. Again, that sort of dent or indent that you see, that's part of the spine curling, again, that will come out. What I like about this book, too, is that the two staples are right in the proper place, so I don't have the potential of having a staple on top and being crunched or pressed into the book and damaging paper. This bottom corner looks to be pretty good, a little soft there, but nothing too outrageous. A little bit of a spine tick right there that is slightly color breaking. Again, one right here as well. So that's going to be an issue. So that those two, that spine tick right there, and then the one down there, those are going to exist. Again, I don't feel like those would necessarily keep it from like being a 9.6. So I'm trying to determine what is my maximum potential grade here that I'm trying to go for. I don't believe that this book can be pressed into a 9/8. So why am I pressing it? I'm pressing it for practice. So here's some curling up here, I think, a little waviness. I think that should come out. I noticed, again, just kind of moving things back and forth in the light up at the top, that the back edge looks pretty sharp, but I think that that also is going to come out in the press. Right here, a little bit of a bend, spine issue also up here as well. I think that those two can come out with a press, but now I'm leaning towards needing humidity, and this is something that I want to start tracking. Did I use humidity and so on? A little bit of discoloration, but just some general waviness in the back. Otherwise, the book looks pretty good. I actually gave this book a 9.2, and I believe that it could be pressed up into a 9.6. And the 9.2 was particularly around because of this area right here, a little bit of a ding or indent right there under the price. That little tear there, the staple issue, and then the couple of spine ticks. But I believe that this book could benefit from a little bit of humidity, a little bit of tack iron work around those spine ticks, certainly that one on the back. And I'm going to kind of make notes of these and take some photos and do kind of a before and after. But that's kind of what I'm looking at with this book. It's possible that it could pass for a 9.4 by itself, but I really, really strongly feel that, to be honest and fair, it is a 9.2. There was one other thing I wanted to point out. What's interesting to me, if you look here up and down, so look at this top corner here. You'll see how these age of comics, they typically, the front and back cover will be larger than the paper, right? So hopefully you can see that where it's hanging over, and you can see how that front cover, it starts to fold over, and that is definitely happening on this book. Also up here just slightly, you could see there that wrinkle. That was another reason I gave the book a 9.2, was because of that sort of overlap, or that overhang of the cover. So a lot of it is just, again, the wear and tear of the age, of course, but also just sort of the folding or wrapping and age of the book, and how that front cover sort of hangs over the inner pages of the comic. So I feel like with using the magazine boards and that whole technique, what I'm looking for is for this particular area at the top to be able to come out nice, sharp, and crispy, and not have that overlap that we would typically see. So that's the book. That's kind of the grade and the condition. So let me show you what I'm tracking here in the spreadsheet. All right, here we go. So this is the worksheet that I'm working on. And this is part of my overall comic book collection worksheet, where I have different worksheets for pressing CGC submissions, and where I'm buying books and all that, online comic book store rankings, all that good stuff. I track everything. And what I realized I was not tracking was my comic book pressing attempts and so on. So right here, again, this being the first book that I'm going to press, you can see I have the source. This is where I got the book from. It cost me $7.20 to acquire the book. The book was advertised as near mint. I gave it a 9.2 for all of the reasons that we just saw. I'm targeting a boost of 2 grade points, or 2 grade tiers, I should say, in the CGC grading tier, boosting it from a 9.2 to a 9.6. Again, I believe that the spine ticks that are on the book are color breaking. There are 3. There is a slight tear by the staple. I'm just thinking that those things combined, if those were the only defects on the book, I can't give it a 9.8, but I do believe that if the book is nice and crispy and flat with the gloss, the corners being as sharp as they are, I do feel that a 9.6 is definitely something that can be obtained. So the AP grade, that would be the after press grade. I'll fill that in after we're all done. And then I'm using the matrix provided by Captain Mike in his comic book CPR book. And right now I'm looking at sort of the middle of the portion of the matrix that talks about duration and temperature based on the age of the book. And this is the first book too that has the newspaper print that I've ever pressed. In the past, I may have pressed one actually now that I think about it, but most of the pressing that I'm doing is for moderns. So this will be a nice kind of reboot or refresh of my pressing technique. So again, I'm looking at a 15-minute press and a heat press at 155 degrees. And I am going to give it a little bit of steam and a little bit of work on the tack iron. I'm going to apply a little bit of steam to the spine and probably the top edge a little bit, and use the tack iron to just kind of massage a couple of the spine ticks where it's a little bit of just a slight angle and dent. So I want to make sure that's nice and smooth before that goes into the press, and then give it a nice 15-minute press, and then leave it in the cold press just to cool off, probably for the duration of today. And I'll wrap all that up as we go along. So let's go get the book ready for pressing. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is get this book ready for the press, even before I give it any humidity or ready for the tack iron, because I want to be able to hold the book intact, and I move everything else right before it just goes into the press. But for the most part, I want to have it all ready to go. So I have all of my materials here, and I'll just go over them pretty quickly. I have 2 sheets of cardstock paper. You'll see I indicate right up here that they're 65 pound. So I have two of those. I have 3 magazine backing boards, so I'll have those ready to go. I have 1 for each side of the book, and then 1 to use for the centerfold, and then 2 sheets of silicone release paper, SRP paper, and those will go to help protect each of the front and back covers as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get the book prepared for the press. What I like to do is I like to work on the centerfold first and make sure I've got that magazine backing board in there. So we'll go ahead and open this up and just delicately put that in. And again, you can just kind of move it around a little bit. And I try not to jam it in that way. I just kind of very gently leave it there in the middle. And what's great about these Bronze and Copper Age books is the newsprint inside can withstand the heat really nicely, so it doesn't really need a ton of protection. You really just need to put the 65-pound cardstock here to protect each cover on each side, like so. Just kind of line it up. And again, I'm putting very gentle pressure when holding the book or putting the paper in, and that's basically it. It really is as easy as that for this era of book. And I'm going to go ahead and pause right there while I apply the spot humidity and go to work with the tack iron for a bit, and then we'll get it in the press. All right, just finished giving this book the humidity. The first thing I want to work on right here is this little dimple right underneath the price there. And my tack iron is nice and warmed up. Some folks I know that are way better than me at this, but people that I study and trying to figure out their technique, they'll use like a steel ball to kind of roll out those, and again, put a lot of pressure. But honestly, the dimple is pretty much gone already. Just that little bit of humidity just kind of released the pressure in the paper fibers, and got that right out. So I just kind of massage the book up and down like this, up and down the spine, and I'll put very light pressure on it, honestly. I have damaged some books by pushing too hard with the tack iron. Like I said, that dimple is still there, but it's looking a little bit better. That may just be kind of what it is. What I'm hoping is it comes out in the heat press. It's definitely better, but I can still see the dimple. I want to work on the 2 areas of the spine that I mentioned right in here. Now, it was color breaking, but what I wanted to do is leave the color break spine tick, but get rid of the very slightly angled dent that was on it. So at least now that it's smooth. And then lastly down here as well by the staple, and just kind of smooth the book out there without really putting too much pressure. I have my my sealing tool or tack iron, whatever you prefer to call it, at a low temperature. Again, I'm just kind of giving it a sort of a warm-up massage, honestly, between the light steam treatment and the sealing tool. It's better, in my opinion, you're better off doing just a little bit of this. Like I said, this sort of like relaxation technique on the book. Sort of, or like if you think about painting your house, you know, it's better to maybe use a very light primer or a light coat of paint first and use a single brush before you go with like spray painting the wall, or using a roller of some kind with a darker color. Because if you make a mistake, it's harder to undo that. And honestly, it's I've made many a mistake here, and so I just kind of like to be a bit more conservative and gentle. Because if it's a high-end book, boy, and you mess up, that's it. It's one and done. Whereas if you don't put enough pressure, or you don't press it just the way you want, you can always do it again. So that's the thing to keep in mind. Yeah, it takes time, and you kind of want to be precise and perfect. But honestly, if it doesn't work out, try it again. But if it's too much heat, too much steam, too much pressure, and the book gets ruined, then that's it. So this is what I like to do. I just like to give it a little bit of a warm-up. I don't really think that I'm going to ever be able to take a book that's like a 4, a 5, or a 6 and magically convert it to a 9/8. And honestly, if I'm dealing with a book above a certain value or a potential value, I'm probably sending it into CCS, or sending it to a presser that has more skill than I do. But even for me, I can tell, even right here, that's the spine tick. I'm just trying to loosen up. I already see that that's helped. It's helped, honestly, up and down the spine. And I feel comfortable doing this right along the edge because I have that protection in there already. So I'm just trying to smooth it out as best I can. And again, this may not do it. It may need a second press, but this is not an expensive book. It's not a valuable book, right? It's still bronze/copper age. So it has the newspaper, it has the wear and tear, it has the history, but this is not a key or anything of that nature that I have to get like super scared of or super concerned about. The other thing I like to do in that corner has a little bit of a bend. See if I, like something I would normally pick out with my like thumbnail or fingernail, I try and just kind of smooth it in that direction to see if the tack iron can kind of pick it off and smooth out that corner, and then just rub alongside the edge there. I think we're good to go for the press now. That's about all I'm going to do with this from that. Like I said, hopefully you can see, and I'll give you a little bit of a closer look here. So basically this is what I was going for, is right in here. Try and get some of these out. They're not, and especially the dimple is still there, like I said. You can kind of see it, hopefully, right there in the light under the price. But nevertheless, that's kind of where we're at. So I'm going to go ahead and give this book a press. Like I said, I don't feel super confident that all of those imperfections are going to come out with that one press. It may require an additional round of humidity, but I don't like to over humidify. I prefer to let the press kind of see what it can do, and then take it out of the press and see if I need to go another round, or if it's good enough as is. This is not a book that I'm going to send to CGC anyway, so I want to just see if I feel like I can push it up into the 9.6 range on its own, or even a 9.4, just getting it out of the 9.2 with the general wrinkling and indenting of books of this era. So now it's time to get this book in the press. Okay, here we go. So according to the stats that I'm going to use a 15-minute duration at 155. So I want to go ahead and turn the press on. And inside all I have is the bottom plate. All right, so I'm going to take a few minutes here while the press continues to warm up and remain warm and consistent at 155 degrees, and just make sure I have everything I need ready for the press. I've got my 2 sheets of SRP paper. I have the magazine backing board. I'm going to use the glossy side down against the comic book. And I feel like the top half of the book is probably the most problematic, so I'm going to make sure that that goes. I have a clamshell press, so I'm going to make sure that that goes in this way. Sometimes if you're looking at corner dings or whatever, you want to maybe turn the book over as you put the book in or position it a certain way. I'm just going to kind of put it in the press as you see it right here. So we're probably good to go. The only other thing that I'm going to add on top is this steel plate. So this will go right on the top as that last piece. So I'll first put the magazine backing board glossy side up, paper on top of that. And as I pick the book up, I'm just very gently again pushing in here to make sure that everything looks great. So yeah, again, we're trying to see if we can get this dimple out right here. And as I lay it down in the press, I'm kind of holding the boards, and it's just kind of it's kind of a thing you have to feel, but I'm pushing the boards in, holding it, and then as I put the book down, I put my hand on the top cover and then release the sides. And I do that because sometimes if you lay it down and everything, and you lose your grip on the book, everything will just kind of open up and slide out. Okay, another clean sheet of SRP, and that's key. Always use a fresh sheet of SRP paper. The last magazine backing board, glossy side down on top. And then last but not least, the plate. And that plate, and you should be able to gently press this down without too much effort, like so. And that is going to stay in the press for 15 minutes and then remain in the cold press throughout the remainder of the day. It may be something that I will let it sit overnight for 24 hours. In either case, we will check on that, and I will be back to show you the results here in a few seconds. All right, we are back and ready to go, ready to check out this book that sat in the cold press overnight. I did end up leaving it through the night. I just figured why not give it that full press. Now, I will tell you right now, I am feeling like I did not do enough with this book. I think I was really, really light on the humidity, really, really conservative in that regard, and probably am anticipating a second round. So this is the end of the first round. We'll see if it's enough. Let's open the press and see how the book turned out. Now, my press is set to very, very lightly and gently push down on the materials and everything inside the press. One of the things I'm trying to learn to avoid is that line that is made on the books when it is when the press is too tight and it really, really pushes down on the books. I'm trying to also be sensitive to staples and staple push and things like that. So that's another thing that I thought about when I pushed the press down. It really felt like the press was just sort of folding and not really pushing and pressing like it's supposed to. But again, I'm trying to figure out what is that precise pressure that needs to be put on the books. So I'm going to take I took the plate off. I'm going to take the top magazine board and SRP paper, and let's see how the book turned out. Yeah, and I can already tell it's almost as if nothing happened. It's weird. It's like it was pressed, and it's definitely got a flat gloss to it. But some of the issues, like right there in that corner, right down there, it's just as the way it always was. Now, sometimes you can't get everything out, but there are very, very light, certainly at the top. Again, really sort of nothing happened there. And that's where you contemplate this age of book going through a humidity bath. It did look like the edge was, on the spine, was improved a little bit there. But honestly, really not what I'm looking for. To me, this is still really a 9.2. There's that corner down there that's still got that problem. It really still looks like a 9.2. It's definitely kind of sharpened some of the edges, and again, it still has that gloss, but if you look up there too, still has that fold that I've seen many times just come out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this through a second round and be a little bit more aggressive on the humidity. What's nice is that, like I was saying, the edge still looks pretty much intact based on the sandwich. It doesn't have that really harsh and rigid line where you can tell that you've pressed the book a little too tightly. So that's kind of where we're at with this one. Still needs to go through, I would say, a second round, a more aggressive treatment. I would consider a humidity bath for this book, but just for the value and for what I'm trying to learn and accomplish, I don't really feel like it's worth it at this time. So on to round two. All right, and we're back. So this is the end of round two. I'll be honest, I'm getting a little impatient at this point. I only let this sit in the press, in the cold press, for maybe about 5 hours. I just, for the kind of book, and then again, I'm trying to figure out and trust my own instincts and experience with this. I just don't feel like that I'm doing everything right by this book. Either the wrong amount of humidity, the wrong spot treatment. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I'm not really approaching this book in the right way. It probably deserves a humidity tank, which, again, I'm not willing to do for this book. So this is about after 4 to 5 hours in the cold press. So I'm going to open this up and let's take a look and see if there were any improvements. Now, I will also mention there were a couple other changes to the process that I made for the second round. I boosted the temperature 5 degrees to 160. And I also tightened the pressure. I increased the pressure by tightening the knob on the press itself. So I wanted to give it a little bit more pressure. I noticed that the spine and the side was perfectly fine in terms of it creating a dent or a crease there. So I felt like it was worth trying here. And yeah, sure enough, it's more or less the same. So right up in there, you can see at the top, it's got the same sort of problem at the top, same issue at the bottom. So these just aren't really coming out. And yeah, I can start to see that crease along the spine. So I think I'm going to have to call this one, honestly. I don't see it getting any better. Maybe that corner's gotten a little bit better, but I would say it probably improved it just slightly. And I'm going to take this out because I think I may be done with the book. But you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Once you start to increase the pressure, it creates this line sort of up and down here that you don't want to see. So actually, before I forget, I'm going to change this back the way it was because it was just too strong, too much pressure. Everything else in the book looks fine. I don't see any stable push. But yeah, it's very unfortunate. So I'm going to have to make the decision here. I'm going to have to either go through another round of humidity to get rid of that crease now, but really just try and figure out how. I mean, I think it's just the age of the book. You're going to get that sort of corner and the wear at the top. It's just going to be there. It's going to be part of the book. I would say the color breaking spine tick right there and right there, they're only that color breaking spine tick. The crease or the dent on that is gone, and I don't really see anything on the actual book itself in terms of any little marks or indentations on the covers. The covers are very, very flat and glossy, which is great. But if I'm looking at the book now I've introduced this dent or crease, so I have to figure that out. Yeah, I mean, gosh, it still looks like a 9.2 to me. I'd have to really go to work on this top portion, and I'm just wondering if it's worth my time at this point. I feel like it's probably as good as it's going to get. I think just for fun, while I have everything out, I'm going to try this one more time to see if I can correct the issue on the spine with some humidity and get one more humidity treatment at the top. I'm not seeing any discoloration or moisture fragments or spotting at the top, so I think I'm okay to do it one last time, and then I'm going to go ahead and call it there. But I'm going to get like super aggressive on the top. what I want is I want to see this corner up here get really nice and flat and crisp. And same with the top here. I want to see that nice and crisp as well. I want to see it flat. The 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 pressure on the press itself, I don't think had anything to do with it. I think the pressure was perfectly fine. I really think it's more or less the just the time and the age of the book, and the fact that maybe there was not enough humidity. I need to see like page curling at the top in order to get this done. So again, it's a inexpensive book, a small investment. These are good to practice on. So I'm going to give this one last try, and then we'll see if I can finally move on from that one. All right, we are back for the final results of round 3. I'm not going to put this through another round. This book sat in the press overnight. Again, just a quick recap. Lots of additional humidity. Just made sure that the press was at the right setting from the pressure perspective. And we're going to open this up and see the final results of the book after experimenting on it for 3 different rounds of pressing. So here we go. All right, opening the press, taking the top plate off, and taking the top magazine board and SRP paper off. And finally, let's see how the book turned out. And it is the same. It's the same. So I'm not sure what to do at this point. It is what it is. The top page still has right there that little imperfection and wrinkle across the top, as does the indent right there. I'm going to take this out of the mini sandwich there. Spine looks really good. That little dimple that I was talking about right there, couldn't quite get that out either. So from an overall perspective, I think it looks very clean. I don't know if I could spend too much time with the book, honestly. I don't know if I could give it a 9.4, but I just don't understand, right there, that corner, it never relaxed, it never laid down and became crispy. And I just don't want to spend any more time on it. I don't want to over humidify it, but this is about as good as it's going to get. I think in general, the spine itself improved so much that I would consider it being a 9.4, but I don't know if I care anymore either. But this is interesting to me because I'm trying to figure out what is my skill at this? What is my skill level? Do I need to press the books? Do I need to have someone else press them? I just don't know. The only thing I could say is still it's the balance on the press of just the right amount of pressure, but I can certainly tell that there is that sort of line going up and down the spine. It's very subtle, but I can tell that it's there now and it wasn't there before. And I don't see it so much on the back, but there's something to do with where the cardstock goes in and just kind of creates a thickness inside the book that adds that additional line. I don't know if you could tell. Keep moving around, but anyway, it's up and down here. There, right there in the light. I don't know if you can see that. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. So what am I going to give? I have to give it a grade, right? I have to give this an assignment, assign a grade, and put it back in there. So if I'm grading this, from scratch, as if I just took this out of the bag and board, I'm still talking about this problem at the top. And I think maybe I improved it to a 9.2. I think that's just it. It's just sort of a natural paper curl up here. It's not really a fold or a dent, I would say. It's just there. The rest of the corners are sharp. That's a little bit soft down there still. What do you think? I could use your help on this one. Did I actually improve this to a 9.4, or is it still a 9.2? I do feel like this is a really nice copy now. It still has that little bit of color rub there and the dimple, but I may be too hard on this book. I still don't believe it's a 9.6 just because of this area right here. This is the problem that I'm talking about. This is the eyesore right in here is this part right there on the page. But the comic itself is in great shape. There's no chipping on the page. There's no tearing. So it's possible that this is now a 9.4. And you know what? I'm going to assign it a 9.4. I'm going to move on. I'm going to be happy with that grade. And again, I feel like moving it to a 9.2 to a 9.4 on a key book of this era is a big deal. For this book, obviously, we're still talking about, maybe a $2 to $5 book, which again, that's fine. That's why I practiced on this book. So thank you for watching. If you have any tips or suggestions for me, please leave them in the comments. Or if you have any questions about my technique, I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep practicing. I'm going to keep messing with the pressure settings on the press, messing with the materials that I use until I get it right, and appreciate you watching and going on this journey with me. Happy collecting. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.